if you know how to be a hard worker, if you know how to pick yourself up, navigating this world is easier, right? If you know how to pick yourself up and you are good at those things, you might find yourself in situations that make it harder to pick yourself up because you're like, yeah, I can do that.
Right.
Right. You around, you find out.
Exactly.
Right?
I mean, there's like the pushback to that is like, I got into some situations that I definitely should not have been in, right? That were not safe, that were definitely came at a cost and things like that.
Yeah. But you learn from those situations, right? And those situations help craft you to who you are today.
Here we go. Here we go. Here we go. Here we go.
Ready, set, go. Ready, break.
We've talked about football a couple of times. Do we want to talk about football?
We can talk about football.
We want to talk about football a
We
little
can
bit.
talk about football real quick because I guess that
It's been a little bit, right?
it's been a little bit, yeah. So the Detroit Lions had a phenomenal season, came out and just crushed. Best season they've ever had.
Like ever, right?
Ever. They've never had the season that they had this year. They went in the regular season, went 14-2, had 2 losses. You know, the losses, they were good losses. You know, it was like, okay, yeah, they just, you know, made some mistakes and got other team was better. But best season, number one, they were back-to-back NFC champions, so NFC North champions. They were the best of the NFC, so the 4 teams, the Lions, the Packers, the Vikings, and the Bears. Lions also had a shutout. They beat every other team twice in their division, so that's just awesome. Number 1 seed. Never been the number 1 seed before. That was also awesome. They got the bye week.
So much.
So many amazing things. And then they lost to the Washington Commanders. Washington Commanders they played a better game. We had a lot of injuries. These are not excuses. This is just facts. Lots and lots of injuries. It's because it's one of those things like there were lots of injuries because that's the game that we play.
Right.
Like the Detroit Lions, like Dan Campbell is like, we're playing a physical game. We will dominate them physically. And when you play that hard, you have injuries.
It's going to happen.
It's going to happen. Same in like jiu-jitsu, right? If you come out rolling 100%, if you rolled like you were in a competition every round, like you're going to get hurt eventually. Yeah. Not even that you're going to hurt other people. Like that's going to be a fact, right? But you're going to also get hurt. It's going to happen. And I think that's kind of, you know, how the Lions play. And I think as much as a lot of people are like, oh, we had all these injuries and what could we do? Like, it's really hard to go back and to play that like, oh, but what if? What if we didn't play as hard? What if we didn't practice as hard? But then what if we weren't as conditioned or as prepared? And what if we didn't win those games, right?
Yeah.
What if we, you know, okay, so we played lighter, but we had a worse season. What would you do in that, right?
What was the season before this? Like, what was last year's season?
Oh, God, so it's been such a great, like, Cinderella story.
Okay.
I think, so Dan Campbell comes in 2021, goes like 3 and... like 12, like 3 and 11. Like, it was terrible, right?
Really?
But he comes in, Jared Goff. So we made a huge trade in 21. We traded Matt Stafford, who had been our quarterback for a super long time, for Jared Goff, had been the quarterback for the Rams. Jared Goff had been to the Super Bowl, had lost at the Super Bowl. Both Matt Stafford and Jared Goff, number 1 NFL draft picks. They're considered pocket quarterbacks. They're not super mobile quarterbacks like a lot of the other new guys, young guys now. And they were switch. We traded them to the Rams, but we also got a ton of draft picks for that, right? They really wanted Matt Stafford. And Matt Stafford, great quarterback, just phenomenal quarterback, went to the Rams, won the Super Bowl, right? As a Matt Stafford fan, like super excited for him, right? Because I know how hard he plays and what he believes in. I think it's funny that his wife and daughters still support the Lions, right? Like
he probably does too.
I'm sure. I have no doubt about it. Right. I'm sure it'll be a big deal when he retires and comes. Like, it'll be a big deal. But he great. So they come in, and Dan Campbell, I mean, he comes out and people are laughing at him because he's like, yeah, this is Detroit. Like, we're gonna be physical. We're gonna dominate. You're gonna kick us, and yeah, we might get knocked down, but we're gonna get up. And he starts talking and saying things like, "We're gonna bite off your kneecap," you know. And he says this in his first press release as the new head coach. And he's like, "Yeah, man, you're gonna knock us down, and you know what? On our way, as we're getting up, we're gonna bite off a kneecap, and then you know what? You're gonna knock us down, and on our way up, we're gonna take another bite, you know. And you're just gonna. And at the end of the day, we're still gonna be standing, and you won't be."
Yeah.
That's the kind of like mentality that we're going to bring. And people were like, this dude's nuts. No head coach is coming out and like, we're going to like bite kneecaps off, you know, like you're going to take another bite out of people. Like, what are you talking about? And then the next year, God, we didn't make it to the playoffs. 2022, it was like 9-7. We just missed the playoffs. And in fact, I think it was one of those like, hey, we did everything we could, you know, winning more games would have got us there. But at the end, other teams beat us out to get to the playoffs, something like that. So we didn't go to the playoffs. And then last year, 2023, had a great run. We come out, we beat the Kansas City Chiefs game 1 after they won the Super Bowl. So they win the Super Bowl. Next season, game 1, we beat them.
Nice.
And everybody's kind of like, you know, like they weren't, you know, really doing anything. And then we win again. And then we lost game 2, I think. And then but then we start winning. And I think last year we locked up number 1. We locked up the NFC Championship pretty early in the season, like week 14 or 15, because the other teams, we had just been dominating them. But our season wasn't as good. I think we finished like 12-5 or something like that. But NFC champions, I think we were the 3 seed or 4 seed. We hosted the LA Rams. So Matt Stafford has to come to Detroit in 2023 as we host a playoff game, and we beat him, right? It's a big deal. This was like, and, you know, you've got the new guy. Everybody's in the crowd cheering Jared Goff, you know, like Matt Stafford, but a lot of love for Matt Stafford. Right, he was Lions quarterback for a super long time. Great quarterback. So he comes in, we beat them. We're like, oh, Lions won a playoff game. That doesn't happen every day. Okay, cool. Like, this is a big deal. And then Tampa Bay comes in, and we beat them. And all of a sudden, you're like, and I might have those games backwards. And what happened? I think we played the Rams first, and then it was Tampa Bay. I don't remember, and the next thing you know, we're going to the NFC Championship, where the winner of the NFC Championship goes to the Super Bowl. And you're like, holy shit. We played the 49ers, who had a great game. We played our style of football, and there's a style of football that Dan Campbell has set out and said, this is what we're going to do, how we're going to play. We're going to be a 4th down team. We're going to go for it on 4th down. And there was an opportunity where we could have kicked a field goal and it would have changed everything. And we went for it anyways, and we didn't get it. Because of that, a lot of people say the 49ers beat the Lions in the 2023 NFC Championship because of that call. When it happened, I was like, yep, that's the kind of football that we're going to play. And I'm okay with that call. Like, I'm okay with that. And we didn't win that. 49ers go on to the Super Bowl, play the Chiefs, they lose. Okay, cool. We got really close. This year, better season, right?
Yeah.
Literally number 1 ranked season, you know, across, like, great, everybody. A lot of injuries, but still a great season, number 1 seed, and then we lose. And it's one of those like, all right, well, hey, we've done it this way and we've done it this way. Like, okay, cool. Like, but it's progressively getting better. And we lost, you know, the season's over now. I mean, we still have the Super Bowl coming up, but we lost our offensive coordinator and our defensive coordinator, Aaron Glenn, Ben Johnson. Ben Johnson went to the Bears, who is a rivalry of ours in the NFC. A lot of kind of talking already going on, like, you know, like whatever. But I think that the culture that Dan Campbell's building will persevere and overall win out versus, because Ben Johnson a great coach, absolutely. Is he a great offensive? Yeah, totally. He's good. There's no doubt about that. But it's not the same.
Yeah.
Right.
Does next season, like, because obviously I know next to nothing about football.
Yeah.
But does it seem like they've got all the, like, everybody's coming back? They've still got the team?
They've got,
like, everything's looking real good for next season?
There's a lot of things that change, right? Because you've got some people that'll have, like, longer contracts. There are people who are on contract extensions. And then there's a lot of free agents, right? People that can just come and go. Some people you're going to try and sign right away. I think the core group that are the big playmakers, they're all returning as far as I can tell, right? Like, we're not losing Jared Goff, our quarterback. We're not losing our 2 best running backs, who are 2 of the best running backs in the league. Amon-Ra St. Brown, Jamison Williams, Sam Laporta, like all of the key players that we have, the playmakers, they're all coming back.
And Dan Campbell's not going anywhere, right?
Dan Campbell's not going anywhere.
Okay.
I honestly, like, I don't want to, like, I don't want to, like, swing, you know, I'm not calling my shot over here. I think Dan Campbell will be the head coach for the Detroit Lions for a very long time.
Yeah.
I just don't think that it'll change. I think at some point he'll probably go, like, I'm just not the same person physically, because he's getting older, right? But I think I wouldn't be surprised if he's the head coach for 10 plus years.
Yeah, it really sounds like a dynasty. It sounds like he's building something there that, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Laying the foundation and the groundwork and everything like that to just eventually get to that spot where they're just dominating everything.
Yeah. I think, I mean, and if you look at it, like, it is progressively the preseason or the season, they're just getting better, right? And I think that we will only continue to get better. Brad Holmes, who's the general manager for the Lions, I think he is super smart. And he is, the thing that I think really sets him apart is he is a scout. So he's out there, like, he finds these guys. And there's a lot of people who, like, would question him. He'd be like, oh, yeah, we signed this free agent. He hasn't played in a year. But, you know, he says he's been staying in shape. And I think he plays the kind of football that we play. So he will tell you, like, yeah, there's a guy over here who's he's got better stats. But we want this guy because he plays our style of football.
Yeah.
And that's, like, even this year during the season with all these injuries, they were pulling these defensive. I mean, and there's a lot of crazy things that have to happen sometimes. Like, if you sign somebody else's, like, free agent from their practice squad, they have to go to the active roster. They have to be on the field the next week, right? So there's lots of, like, things that go into some of this stuff. And Brad Holmes, like, Aaron Glenn, the defensive coordinator, he's like, I'm not worried about teaching these guys our entire playbook. They need to understand the kind of football that we play. And they're big on, like, we want football players. We don't want, like, a tackle. We want football players that can move into these different roles.
Has football changed so significantly because it sounds like he's playing a style of football that harkens back to the good old days, it reminds me of the way that you're describing it from, do you know what I mean? Like the big dynasties back in the 80s growing up where you had, like, the Bears and the Packers and football was much more of a rough, like, intense. Is that what he's kind of 100%. Going back to?
Yeah, it's definitely more of a physical game. I mean, like, they
overall, like, correct me if I'm wrong, but overall, like, in the NFL, has that kind of changed over the years where it's not quite that same style of game much anymore?
I would definitely say that, like, it used to be super, like, hey, you know, a lot of hard hitting and that. It definitely kind of, like, came back a little bit where you're like, you know, because safety and all those things are, like, super important, right? But I think there's, like, you'll hear more and more teams talk, like, we're going to be physical. We're going to be intentional. We're going to have tenacity, grit, you know, like, we're going to push on these things. And I think that is definitely something that the Dan Campbell and his staff really put into the players. I think the players really look at it. And I think if you look at it, it's that culture of, this is the kind of football that we play. So Amon-Ra St. Brown, who's a wide receiver, he's a great example. He's one of the most physical wide receivers when he's not catching the ball. Like, if they're like, hey, you're going to go out, we need you to, like, block this guy and act like this is going to happen. And you'll watch him. He'll go out there and shove some corner or something like that. Dude falls down. And they're like, oh, it's he pushed him too hard. It's like, he's an offensive player. Like, what do you mean?
Right.
You know, like, I don't understand. Like, that's what we do here. And people like get mad at Amon-Ra St. Brown. They'll just be like, you know, he's coming out and he's shoving me and he keeps going. And it's like, well, yeah, man, he's playing to the whistle. You know, like that's the thing that we do. So
today's episode of the podcast is brought to you by Woolly. I'm sure you've heard how we're all consuming copious amounts of microplastics. Well, it turns out all of that workout activewear that you're wearing also has those toxic chemicals embedded right into them. All of Woolly's clothes are 100% merino wool, which means it's a natural fabric, which is far better for your overall health. On top of their clothes not only looking good, they're naturally odor resistant and they wick moisture away from your body. So I wear them all the time, whether I'm working out, hiking, around the house, out for the night, it doesn't really matter. Woolly has you covered. I swapped out all of my boxers with Woolly. Not only do they look good, not only do they feel good, but I also wasn't wrapping my boys up in all of those synthetic materials and microplastics. So if you're ready to take your health seriously, it's time to go with Woolly. Listeners of this podcast can save 15% on anything at their website. Click the link in the description and be sure to enter in promo code BRAVE at checkout. It's time to get serious about your health, fellas.
I think there's definitely a level of physicality, and this year they called it the Lions hangover. For most of the season, if you played the Lions, you lost the next week. You were so physically tired and just hungover from the Lions game that you were like, oh, you're going to lose the next week. I think it wasn't until like week 7 or 8 or 9 even that a team played us and then won the following week. Like for the first 7 games of the year, every team that played us, not only did they lose to us, well, minus the second game 2 with the Buccaneers, but you lost to us and then you lost the next game because you were just beat up. And I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
You know, like looking back is like, yeah, do I wish the Lions would have went to the Super Bowl? Absolutely. Do I wish the Lions would have went further in the playoffs than they did? Absolutely. Am I super excited that we went back-to-back NFC North champions? Absolutely. Am I excited that we were the number 1 seed and we've never done that before? Absolutely. Do we have the best record in franchise history? Absolutely. Do we set more franchise records this year than ever before? Absolutely. These are all good things in my world. Like, we didn't get to the end of the game that I was really hoping for. And in all honesty, it probably worked out for the best for me because we had a lot of things that cost a bunch of money this year. And I have told my wife, and I know you're going to listen to this, but when the Lions go to the Super Bowl, I'm going. Like,
well, there you go. There's a good reason why it didn't happen this year, right?
Yeah, it would have caused a lot of stress in my marriage. We had obviously like we bought the gym, right, or the jiu-jitsu school, so that was expensive. Jamie's car, like I just got Jamie's car back, an engine. It's still upsetting to talk about. Jamie's car's engine went out of warranty 7,000 something miles ago or 10,000 miles ago, and then the engine blew up. We've just had a lemon of a vehicle, and unfortunately now it's got a new engine, but we had to pay for out of pocket out of that.
Yeah, dude. It's so shitty.
Yeah. I mean, and
so they weren't supposed to go this year. You know, that's the,
it just wasn't. Yep.
And that's okay.
That's okay.
Yeah.
Great season. I got to take my son. So, and like, this is where like, all these great things. We went, my stepfather, right, Dave, and my son and I drove up from where we live in Tennessee. We drove up to Indianapolis, went to the Colts game where they won. It was great.
Yeah.
My son got, like, he is into it, right? And I'm like, yes, like, he wore his jersey today, right? And he's like, hey, can I wear my jersey? Absolutely, bud. You can totally wear your jersey. So I'm super excited. Nora was upset. Like, she just got her Lions gear in the mail. She got 2 shirts, you know, T-shirts that are like, you know, this is I'm a Lions girl or whatever. Like, she's about it. Jamie's got her gear. Like, it's the thing, right? And I'm all about it. So, yeah, it was a great year. Really excited with what they did. I'm excited for next year. Like, it's great.
Has it been decided yet? Because I don't follow anything. Do we know who's going to be in the Super Bowl? Has that been?
Yep. So it'll be the Kansas City Chiefs. This will be their 4th year in a row
Okay.
I think, and I don't follow them, but they're going for their three-peat. So if they do it, then and they actually, I will give them credit, they've gone further for a three-peat than any other team ever in history. The
three-peat for winning the Super Bowl?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's never happened, right? There have been lots of teams that have, no team has, yeah. So they've won 2 Super Bowls in a row right now. That's been done before, but they're going for the third. And no team has won 2 Super Bowls and then went to a third Super Bowl.
Oh, wow.
Right? No
so
team.
Even just them going is a big deal.
Them going's a big deal. I want to say them playing in the AFC Championship was the first time that a team had won 2 Super Bowls and then went to the AFC Championship. So that, and I think even like they were the number 1 seed, I think that's the first time that had happened as well. So the Kansas City Chiefs are doing things that no football team's ever done before.
Isn't that Taylor's boyfriend?
That is, yes. Okay. Taylor Swift's boyfriend, number 87, Travis Kelce, tight end.
Right.
Good player, older. Right, little older guy, but still getting his chops in there. Patrick Mahomes, pretty good quarterback. You know, they're all about the State Farm commercials and all that stuff now.
Who are they playing? The Chiefs against?
The Eagles, Philadelphia Eagles. Ooh. So this will be good. This was a game. I
like the Eagles.
Yeah, so
I like that Mark Wahlberg movie.
This is... So 2 years ago, the Kansas City Chiefs played the Eagles, and it was the first time that 2 brothers on opposite teams played each other at the Super Bowl. So Travis Kelce's brother,
the other Kelce?
Yeah, what is his Jason Kelce, who is a center for the Philadelphia Eagles, they played each other. So it was cool, like Mama Kelce, right, had a double jersey, like it was 2 jerseys sewn together. So it's like fun stuff like that, right? But Jason has since retired, so he's no longer a football player. But yeah, Taylor Swift, boyfriend, Travis Kelce.
When is it? The Super Bowl, do you know?
I don't have the date. It's like
it's coming
February
up this month,
20th or something like that, or it's around that time. It's mid-February. We'll probably do something at the house or something like that.
Yeah.
But it'll be cool. It's going to be in Louisiana at the Superdome.
I love the Super Bowl for the commercials, obviously, but it's not even just like the funny commercials. Like for me, that's when all the good trailers come out.
Yep.
And so the next day I just sit there and watch them all on YouTube.
Oh yeah.
Right.
I mean, the Super Bowl commercials are they're a thing in themselves. I mean, like think about like some of the great like what's that? Right? Yeah. Like all that stuff. And I love Gary Vee. Do you ever watch it?
I love Gary Vee.
Love Gary Vee.
Yeah, Gary Vee's great.
And but he talks about it like the Super Bowl, and people are like, "Oh my God, it's $8 million for 30 seconds." You will get more eyeballs watching. Like, yeah, not only did it cost me $8 million to get this 30 seconds, but that $8 million, if you look at like per eyeballs awareness, best investment you'll ever make.
Yeah.
Right. Like you'll never get more visibility on a brand or whatever it is that you're trying to, promote than you will in the Super Bowl. And I think that's crazy. It's the number 1 watch thing like ever.
Yeah.
Right. So I think that's super cool. And there's a big post, halftime show. Kendrick Lamar is going to be there. A bunch of other people I'm sure will be there. We will watch it just to, part of what we do. But I don't really have feelings one way or the other who wins.
It'd be cool if the Chiefs win. Like I'm always a fan of like, stuff that's never been done before. I think that's a cool thing. I know nothing about them, like other than the Taylor Swift thing from, obviously just being alive on the planet today. But yeah, it'd be cool if they win just for that.
I think Jalen Hurts, who's the quarterback for the Philadelphia Eagles, got a great story too. I think it would be a big deal for him to win as well, right? Like I think it would be that like, hey, we played you in the Super Bowl 2 years ago and you beat us and we came back and beat you this time, right? We're the ones that snubbed your three-peat.
That'd be a big deal.
It'd be a big deal. So either way, it's a big deal game.
It is. It's going to be fun.
It's a big deal game.
Yeah, and I like watching it. Like I can usually watch it and enjoy it just from the perspective of like, you know, because I don't know I just don't know anything. I mean, obviously that's been proven.
Yeah.
Right. If we're listening to the podcast, you know, Craig knows nothing about football, but I do enjoy watching it just as a game. I mean, I used to love playing football growing up. Like I have, you know, all those kind of memories and things like that. But as far as like, I also think that there's a part of me that gets all sort of like used to, at least. I don't really do this much anymore, but I used to get so wrapped up in like, because it's not that big of a deal, and like the way that it's taken so seriously, and like the football culture in this country and all those kind of things used to just really drive me nuts. But at the same time, it's like anything else, right? It's what people are into and what they're passionate about and what they, so.
I think, I mean, it's funny, like, I agree, the football culture, right? Like professional NFL football here in the U.S. is a huge culture thing, right? The same as so is football in Europe.
Yeah.
Right?
The entire rest of the world.
Exactly, right? Like there are lots of other areas, like, nobody in India really gives a shit about the football or about the NFL Super Bowl, but man, the cricket champion, like that's a huge thing for them. Rugby in Australia, right? Like that's a huge thing that these people, that's their culture and identity, you know, and they talk about the teams and stuff like that. So I think that across the world, every area's got its thing that it's like, hey, this is where we put it, you know, except for maybe like the Eskimos, right? They're just busy surviving. They're like, I ain't got time for that shit, man. Like, we got to survive. But I think a lot of cultures and civilizations and, you know, that we have around the world, like they've got that thing that they're always, you know, pushing for.
Sure. It'll be nice when pickleball takes over the throne.
That could be,
knocks football down, and suddenly it becomes all about pickleball in this country.
Yeah, the hard part about that is a single sport, right? Is team sports is where, because now you've got different characters.
It's the same thing with pickleball, though. Like if
two people,
it's not just two people though. There's teams. It's a whole thing. You really got to get into it. I'm telling you.
So let's look at it this way.
Gary Vee owns a pickleball team.
Does he?
Yeah. I can't remember the name of it. It's the New Jersey something, I think.
Okay.
But yeah.
I mean, I think that's cool that Gary Vee owns a pickleball team. But I think about the idea of like, think of any other sport or even just single or dual, right? Who's the best bowler?
Right.
Who's the best doubles tennis player? Who's the best curling team, right? And that's a team of 4, right? Like, so you've got all these different, like these smaller base teams. The sport just doesn't go as far because there's not as many people to cheer for.
Yeah.
Right. Whereas like if you look at the NFL or even football or soccer, right, or football.
I'm loving how you say football.
Well, that's all I can think about is like, because there's, how do you do, and it's just my Ted Lasso, like, football is life,
right?
But because I don't want to, I look at it, that's soccer, right? I'm from the U.S., like we call that soccer. But I understand the rest of the world calls that football, and we call professional NFL football. So I see that there's a difference, but there's a difference for me for football and football. I think that when you like on the Detroit Lions, like me and my son have Aiden Hutchinson jerseys, right? But like I would also buy a Goff jersey. I would buy a a Williams jersey, an Amon-Ra St. Brown jersey. Like I would wear any of those, right? And I would root for each one of those. My son is like, he's like, yeah, Hutchinson's the man. But he really likes St. Brown. He really likes that. He also is a huge fan of now my brain's going numb. Jahmyr Gibbs, right? And like, so the two running backs, David Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs, they came up with this like, oh, we're the Sonic and Knuckles, right? And Lincoln, it was like, he loves Sonic and Knuckles. He's like, yeah, like this is awesome, right?
That's awesome.
So it's, I don't know, happiness.
Right. It's really funny because the Detroit Lions were one of my favorite football teams growing up. Like anytime you got like the little helmets or the pencils or all the stuff that, you used to get back in the day, like in elementary school and stuff, I would always try to get the Lions because blue's my favorite color. There you go. And then of course it's lion, a lion, right? The lion fucking looks awesome, right?
Fucking lion.
Exactly.
That's the thing.
Yeah. That's not by mistake. Actually, it's really cool how the whole logo came to be. And because I don't even know if I think I knew that you liked obviously the Lions, but
I think you just picked the lion.
I did just pick the lion. It was one of the things where at the time it was really coming up in my space. It was really being like I could feel lion energy. I could connect to being a lion. I had all. You have
a mane.
I have a mane, right? And so it was really, it's cool. I think it all worked out great.
I mean, when you sent it to me, I was like, yes,
right,
fucking love it.
Yeah, it turned out great.
Right,
it's a fucking mean looking. When I was thinking about that new Lion King, when that one comes out, we need to go watch it.
Oh yeah,
I think it would be fun to take the kids and go watch that one.
I mean, you've gone to more kids' movies with my kids now than I have, really. So, because when saw,
we loved Wicked.
Yeah, Wicked.
It was so freaking good.
Where was I? I was on a work trip or something. And Jay was like, "Yeah, we're all gonna go to see Wicked." I was like, "Oh, dang, I missed."
I was so excited about it.
I know.
When Stephanie was like, "Hey, we're gonna go," and I'm like, "Seriously, we're gonna go see Wicked?" I'm so excited. I cannot wait because it's totally my jam. I grew up loving musicals.
Yeah.
So I was all excited, and I was just sitting, like, literally, I think I was the most excited one there. The kids were just like, whatever, this is great and everything. It's a long movie.
It is.
And Stephanie definitely, Steph liked it. I think Jamie liked it too. But
Jamie liked it. She was
I think
into
Craig
it.
was definitely the biggest fan of Wicked. Woo! I'm bawling halfway through. It's just... It was a good movie. I'm a big fan of musicals.
Yeah, I'm not a musical fan. So I'm really glad that you got to take my family, and Steph got to take my family to the movies.
Yeah, it was so fun.
Listen, I'm glad you guys had a great time.
I told you how Lincoln was like all shitty about his popcorn. Like, dude, we're sharing the popcorn.
Yeah.
I'm feeling your popcorn. He's like, that's my popcorn.
Dude, he's
fucking stop eating my shit.
Yeah, dude, he's such a... Just watching him because he's connecting all this stuff, right? He's like, and you're like, what are you doing? And he's like, I don't know. And I'm like, yeah, man, what the fuck? What are you doing?
Yeah,
right?
It's a fun age.
Yeah,
he's at a really fun age.
He is at a really fun age. And they're good. They're great kids. It's hard because like I'm trying to like this morning. So Jamie's out of town, and this morning, like, hey, we're getting up. Like, I know that you want to screw around. You want to do all this stuff. But we've got to get the things that need to be done first, right? You have a routine, a list of chores, or like here's your morning routine that we have them check off, right? You got to get dressed, you got to make your bed, you got to clean your room, you got to brush your teeth, you got to do all these things. If you bust your ass and get all that stuff done, and we got 30 minutes, and you want to play or whatever, like I don't give a shit. Like you got your job done. But when you dink around and like now it's like, hey, we got 5 minutes and we're leaving. Like I told him this morning, I was like, here's the deal. I'm not doing this thing anymore. I was like, your mom's not here, so it's my fucking rules, right? Sorry, babe. We're dad style.
Right.
I told them both. I was like, here's the deal. Your alarm goes off at 6:30. I was like, there's a list literally on this really expensive fucking calendar thing that Jamie bought or got for Christmas that has their list that they get to check off.
Whole digital thing.
Whole digital thing.
I love
right?
it.
I got yelled at because I'm a slow adopter, right? I'm like, Jamie's like, you don't even have the app on your phone. I was like, shit, I'm getting yelled at for this stuff. So I'm caught up.
I would just start coloring on it. I'd start using dry erase markers on it and just be like, wow, shit, I forgot.
I don't know if you could do that. Don't do that. Like I'm
not gonna come over to your house.
Just color it on your TV.
I'm gonna put Craig's schedule in there.
But the kids go through this, so I just told them, I was like, here's the deal. You have alarms, they go off. At 6:30, I'm gonna come in and say, get out of bed when your alarm's going off. You know exactly what you need to do. If you are not done with all of your things at 7:25, I'm just gonna say, get in the car. If you don't have shoes on, I don't care. If you don't have a lunch, I'm sorry. We allow our kids, like we make our kids lunch so they get to pick really, and they make it, we make it, it's a group effort.
Yeah.
But they serve lunch at school. And because of, Tennessee, and I think it's awesome. All our kids' lunches are free. All lunches in McMinn County are free.
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter. Like, my kid can go and get breakfast and lunch for free. That's amazing, right? Doesn't affect my family as much, but for those families that it does, like, that's phenomenal. I think that's great because that shit can be expensive.
Yeah.
And it adds up fast, especially if you got a bunch of kids. But my kids are like, well, I don't like that lunch. So I'm like, well, that's fine. If you don't make your lunch and you're not ready to go, like, you're going to eat that lunch. And they're like, well, I don't like it. I don't care. Like, you had all this opportunity and you didn't seize that. You're left with what's left over. And I just told him, I was like, yeah, we'll just leave. I was like, if you're not dressed, I don't care.
How different is your parenting styles, do you think? Like, because Ben travels a lot and Jamie's running the house with her rules and everything like that.
Yeah.
Is it really, really different?
It's not really, really different. We believe, I would say that Jamie and I, we believe the same things. We, for how we want a parent and what we want them to be and, this and that. We believe in structure and rules and consequences and stuff like that. I tend to be the enforcer of, like, no, you did this. Now this is, like, where your punishment is. Jamie tends to be more like, she doesn't want to deal with all that. And because she's already, especially if I'm not there, she's already hindered because now there's 1 versus 2, right? Which is a harder game to play versus 2v2, like pickleball, right? Imagine playing pickleball, 2 people and just you. Like, that shit would be hard.
It is.
Now, they're 7 and 9 and, dumb, comparatively. But so Jamie, she tends not to go as hard at the consequences of things. And I'm over here like, yeah, I don't give a shit. I'm like, oh, you screwed up? Like, that was a consequence, kid.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, you're grounded for the week. I don't know what to tell you. Like, you screwed up. And I probably am more of even when everything's going on, this is the rules, right? It doesn't matter if I'm having a rough morning and, like, all that. Like, this is the same thing. Like, I think I probably am maybe a little more consistent on it, and it doesn't matter if there's good times or bad times or fun times or sad times. It doesn't, like, I try to be a little more consistent across the board on it. That's my take on it. Jamie will probably tell you something a little different.
She's probably like,
yeah, she's like, yeah, she's listening. She's like, yeah, shut up, idiot. I'm also probably like, like, I love my kids. If my kids think I'm a big ass right now, I don't care.
Yeah.
It's not my job to make them like me, right? Like, I love my kids. Nothing that they will do will ever change how much I love them. That doesn't mean I like them all the time. Like, they do shit all the time. I'm like, what the fuck are you doing? So it's not, I don't have to like them, but I love them. It's my job to make sure that they grow up to be productive, good members of society. I want to make, like, I want to grow, I want to hang out. I want to make sure that when my kids are older, I want to hang out with them, right? That they're good people, that they are doing the things that they want to do and they're achieving the things that they want to achieve. And if that means that I'm an asshole for the first, like, 5 years or 10 years or 15 or 20 years, like, I don't care. It's my job to make sure that they get to be the people that they would want to be in the future.
Yeah.
And this is the time to make that happen. Like, I have never heard of, and do I believe that you could you let some kid just do whatever they want and just grow up like, hey, for the first 20 years of your life, no rules, do whatever you want, just whatever. And the kid's a fucking asshole, right? If you do that, there's no way the next 20 years of that kid's life are a 180 and they're this, like, fucking all this awesomeness, right? There's no way that happens because we're building blocks, right? You can't just flip a switch and make a change. You are constantly reiterating and adapting and changing, but it's a little by little by little, right?
One of our yoga teachers, so Steph and I have these yoga teachers that, not just literally taught us yoga and we went through the whole, school and everything like that, but she grew up in Vegas.
Okay.
And her parents very much had like not like a hands-off kind of approach to parenting, but they very much just let her make her own decisions, live her own life, do what she wanted to do. So they didn't impose any consequences or any real structure to it. And I mean, she turned out great.
Okay.
But it definitely came, there was some times where it was, it would have been nice to have some boundaries and some structure and things like that. And I think that no matter what you do, this is been my experience, right? My oldest is 25, and there's always going to be a counter to whatever it is that you do as a parent. So whether you're making these decisions based off of, best intentions and everything like that, your kids are always going to push back against it in the way that you don't want them to. And then if you go too far to the other side in an attempt to try to balance that out, then they're going to push in the opposite direction. And so it's just this whole game where it's part of the process, I think, where they're going to push back against their parents, no matter what.
The pushback is the thing that has to. Exactly. They're going to go through this.
Exactly.
Yeah. And I agree. I think that you can be the parent that just lets your kids make their own decisions, and that kid will either excel in that. I mean, Jamie is a great example. Like, Jamie's parents were never super like, hey, you got to make sure you do all your homework and all this stuff. She was a great student.
Yeah.
Right? Focused on like reading and all that. Was a bit of a nerd, which is fine, right? But she was the person who got good grades and did all that stuff, right? Her parents were never like, hey, did you do all your homework, right? They didn't. It just wasn't a thing, but she knew it was a thing. That was her personality and her as an individual making those decisions early on. My children make poor choices, and like they would just be like, yeah, I didn't do it. I think it was hard. I mean, I think it was second grade or third grade. Like, we asked Lincoln, hey, do you have homework? And he was like, no, I didn't have any homework. And then we found out like 3 months later, like he had homework the whole time and had a D. And it was like, I just wasn't doing it. We're like, whoa, that's not how this works. Like, because he almost had to repeat third grade. And it's like, cool. Not because he's not smart, but he thought it was okay not to do the work. He didn't have to participate. He didn't have to do these things.
Yeah.
Right? So you've got to, like, that's fine. If you think that you want to do this, like, that will lead you down a certain path. And if that's the path that you want to be on, like, that's a choice that you can make.
See, I always think about this too, Ben, where it's like, because I remember when our kids were in school and we used to do all of those things, all of that stuff of like, just all of it, all the stuff that you do when your kids are in school. And I see it so differently now. And I think about, like you just said, right, it's going to take you down a path. And if that's the path that you're going to go, then that's my perception of what's going to happen. Do you know what I mean? I think the truth of it is, and the reality is that I have no idea what path it's going to take them down.
Totally.
It might be the path that they need to go down. It might be, the decisions that they make at this point in their life or whatever, right? Those are the decisions that are going to shape and influence who they are. And I think it's far less, I think this is the other real important thing that I've learned, is that it's far less about what I think or how I perceive things or what my thoughts are about it. Because I know that from my own personal experience, like at this point in my life, I have no fucking idea what my parents thought or what their perception was or what their idea was about my life. And that never really came into play.
Yeah.
It was always about whatever I was doing. It was always about my life and my decisions and my choices and my actions. And so I think that there's a part of being a parent where we think we're more important than we are. And we think that the actions and choices that we make as a parent are more important than they really are. Because I think at the end of the day, I think it's about keeping them safe. I think it's about, giving them some structure and things like that. But at the same time, it's really just supporting them in the process as they learn life, however that looks for them, right? And school, like, fuck school. The school system, the education system, all of it's just a fucking joke. I think it's just a complete fucking waste of time. I really do. Like, we got to the point with, by the time Asher was in high school and everything like that, we're just like, we don't care about any of this.
Yeah.
Just show up, do whatever you want to do. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, you've got to get the graduation. You got to get that fucking diploma, because society has been structured in such a way where if you don't have that thing, then a whole bunch of other things are going to be really difficult. But the end goal of getting that can look however, I don't care about A's, B's, C's, D's. I don't care about any of those things. It's just simply because I think it's just such a joke, the way that we're teaching kids and the way that I listened to this podcast the other day, and I'm not going to get her name right. I never remember these people's names that are so impactful and amazing.
Like, God, it was so impactful.
She's like,
what the fuck was
she's
her
somebody
name?
that's well known, and like she's a Harvard, person. Like I don't even have my phone on me.
Many leather bound books.
Well, she's written books. She does all these amazing research studies. And it's all about mindfulness. And the purpose of the podcast, it was Rich Roll's podcast. I don't know if you ever listened to him. And
today's episode is brought to you by Heritage Steel. Heritage Steel offers premium cookware made right here in the USA, and that's something that is very, very important for me, is that it is a U.S.-made product. Not only is this product made here in the U.S., but it's a family-owned and Tennessee produced item. You can use them any way you want. You can put them on your stove and cook. You can put them in the oven. They're going to be great for all of that, and they're super easy to clean. And guess what? If you're listening to this right now and you're on the Brave Men Dare podcast, you get 10% off. Go to heritagesteel.us/brave and get you 10% off anything in the Heritage Steel inventory. Make sure you use promo code BRAVE when you're checking out, and that'll get you that 10% off anything in the Heritage Steel store. Heritage Steel, premium cookware for less.
Really brilliant lady. But she was talking about, she posed this question to him where it's like, what's 1 + 1?
2.
2, right?
Yeah.
But not always. Sometimes if you take one pile of laundry and add it to another pile of laundry, you still just have a pile of laundry, right? If you take a cloud and one cloud and two cloud, and then you put them together, you still just have one cloud. So 1 + 1 doesn't always equal 2. And so it's teaching kids the truth of it, where, there's not necessarily certainties, and it's more about curiosity, and it's more about looking for your own answers and your own solutions, and recognizing that there's a lot of possible answers to all of these questions, not just 1 + 1, but really in life.
Yeah.
And that's, to me, I think would be a much more concrete way. Like, so there's not always one right answer to a test.
Yeah.
And trying to just memorize all of these facts in order to, get the test scores that you need to get, and all of that stuff. I think the education system in this country is just a complete shit show mess. But that's not what this podcast is about. We could go on and on and on about it. But
I agree. So here's the thing that I would say about like how we're raising kids today versus how we were raised. It's not the same, because the world is way different, right? You grew up being able to go ride your bike wherever you could get to. Right? There was like, my mom never told me like, don't go further than 5 miles away from the house on the bicycle. She was like, if your skinny little ass legs can take you there, you better be able to get home. Right? That was okay. Be out all day. Like, it wasn't a big deal for me to wake up, have breakfast, and leave and come back at night. My mom wasn't concerned, right? Because that was the normal for the world back then. There's not a parent today that would just be like, yeah, I don't know, I haven't seen my kid in fucking 8 hours. My 12-year-old, I don't know.
Right.
They took off on their bicycle. Like, there's not a parent today that would just be okay with that.
Yeah.
So it's a different world. We didn't have phones, technology, tablets, game. Like, we didn't have any of that stuff. We had a Nintendo, maybe a Sony PlayStation if you had some fucking money, right? If you were one of them rich kids. But so what our kids have today is different than what we had, and we have to keep that in mind when we look at how we're raising, because not only our parents raised us to function in what society was, what they could accept and see. We are raising our children in what we see society is and accept and, is. I try to think about like, what are the skills that transcend these times, right? I talked to Lincoln a lot about like, how do we tell stories, right? Use a fucking period when you're talking. Use a comma. If you say and like 30 times, like, are you just talking to talk? To have words come out of your mouth so you can be the person whose voice you're just rambling? Or do you have a thought that you have put together and said, this is what I want to say? Take a moment. Here's the information I want to share. So I talked to Lincoln about a lot of that stuff. If you said you were going to do it, do it. The same would go for, why is it important that, hey, here's the chores or the routines that you need to get done, and then you can have free time. Well, if he's 30 and he just goes about having free time, is he going to be happy when he's 50 looking back and be like, man, I really just kind of screwed around for the first 40 years of my life, and now I'm in the spot where I want to get going, but I'm so far behind.
See, and I think that's your perception.
Totally. Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? I think he could fuck around and
find out
for 20 years, 30 years, and he could have a beautiful life, and he could make all of these decisions based off of just whatever he wants to do, right? And that could be the path that he walks. Then that could be the thing that makes him happy, and he could never feel like he's behind because he's right where he's supposed to be and doing exactly what he wants to do. And so again, it's like, I mean, if I had to do parenting over again, and I'm really grateful that I don't.
You don't want to start changing diapers over?
No.
You sure?
I
think you should get some triplets.
Right?
6-month-old triplets.
Yeah, no.
I think Craig and Steph.
I'm good.
That would be the perfect,
I'm so good. Yeah.
We're in our triplet era.
We talk about when we come back again and we're reincarnated, we're like, the next go round, we are not doing kids. We're just gonna take a lifetime off so that we can enjoy just being Steph and Craig, doing whatever we want, or whatever version of Steph and Craig we are. But if I had to go back and do it all over, I would do it so completely different, because I really think that so much of what I did as a parent, and I think what parents do, is we just project all of our fears onto our kids, and we label it all of these different things where we're keeping them safe, and we're setting this up, and we're teaching this, and we're doing all of these things. But I think all that is really just the projection of our fear onto them, rather than just walking with them as they figure things out.
Yeah.
And there's obviously things like, there's always these adages of well, you're going to let your kid get burned, you got to protect them, or you're not going to let them run out into traffic, all these other kind of things that, you have to, help with those things to some extent. But I'm also a big proponent of get hurt.
Oh yeah.
Fall down, break stuff, climb trees, all of those things that teach you about yourself, teach you about, it's like you were talking about, we grew up in an era where if I got hurt, I remember I was riding my bike to my best friend's house, and it was on the complete other side of town. So I was riding my
distance
mountain bike.
Away.
Yeah. I mean, it was, I don't know, 4 or 5 miles or something like that. It took me an hour to ride there.
Yeah.
Maybe not that long. It felt like it. It was a fucking haul.
It could have been.
Right?
I mean, those little tires on bikes back there,
And so I'm riding over to his house. That's my phone going off somewhere. I don't even know where my phone is.
I thought there was just a bird in here
somewhere, right? But I used to ride with as soon as I figured out how to ride without hands.
Yeah.
Right? So I'm just riding around without hands.
Looking cool.
It's so cool. So I'm up there and I'm just riding my bike, and I clipped a mailbox. And I went down hard.
I was going to say, I could feel that fall.
And my shins got all jacked up because it was one of those where your shin hits the pedal, and next thing you know, I've got massive scrapes and blood. There's nothing you can do about it other than just pick your fucking shit up.
Yep.
And I had to finish riding to his house just to get there so that his mom could help me get cleaned up and put on Band-Aids and stuff like that. But I think that's so important. I think there's so many parts about your kids have to learn how to deal with stuff, how to face all of these different things rather than trying to insulate and protect them from all sorts of different stuff. Because truthfully, that's just what life is.
Yeah.
It's learning how to navigate life and how to move through life.
That's literally, so I 100% agree with you on that. I mean, I joke about this now. I look at my 2 kids, if they were on their bicycle in the driveway and just fell down, just not even fell over, they would both sit there and cry.
Mm-hmm.
They wouldn't pick themselves up. They wouldn't. They would just sit there and cry, and then maybe eventually they would stand up and then come inside in tears and just be like, I fell down. I'd be like, are you bleeding? Is anything broken? Are you going to be okay? This is, you have to learn to just pick yourself up and to just go through. So what you just said is, I'm trying to make sure that my kids understand that they will get out of life what they put into it.
Mm-hmm.
There's no one is going to make sure that it's good for them. At some point, it'll just be them.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I'm not going to be here forever helping you out. You can't rely on me forever. And you have to deal with the consequences of your choices and actions through this. But if you want to, if you know how to be a hard worker, if you know how to pick yourself up, navigating this world is easier, right? Now, if you know how to pick yourself up and you are good at those things, you might find yourself in situations that make it harder to pick yourself up, right? Mm-hmm. Because you're like, yeah, I can do that, right? Right? You're gonna you fuck around, you find out,
exactly. Right? I mean, there's that, like, the pushback to that is like, I fucking got into some situations that I definitely should not have been in, right? That were not safe, that were definitely came at a cost and things like that.
Yeah. But you learn from those situations, right? And those situations help craft you to who you are today, right? I think that it's super, I mean, it's hard. Like, I think that adversity is one of those things, like, like, I think you should have some adversity. If everything's easy, right? If my son goes through third grade, he fucks around all year long, doesn't do any of his work, and then he has to do third grade again. And then he's like, dude, all my friends are in fourth grade.
Yeah.
And then he's like, and now I have to deal with all this. I'm like, yeah, man, that's the consequences of you fucking around. Like, you didn't think it was important, and that's fine. If you don't think the Revolutionary War was important and you don't want to learn any of that stuff, that's fine. You don't want to do your cursive, that's fine.
Are they still teaching cursive?
They are still fucking teaching. It's like, this is what cursive is.
Okay.
Right? I think Lincoln's in fourth grade. He's doing cursive, but, like, I'm pretty sure by sixth grade, they're like, yeah, we don't fucking use that shit.
Right?
I think, I'm not saying the education system is fucking perfect in any way, shape, or form. If it was on me, right, and they were like, hey, like, get fucking cursive out of here, right? We're done with this. Yeah. And the crazy ways they teach math now, I'm like,
yeah, it's bananas.
I understand. And oh God, this could go into another conversation. Ecological jiu-jitsu.
Ecological?
Or is it ecological? Ecological?
I don't know if those two words go together. Ecological jiu-jitsu?
I think it's ecological. It's a way of training.
Okay.
Have you heard about this?
I haven't.
Okay. So we'll side tangent real quick for this, because it does come back to the kids.
Okay.
So most jiu-jitsu instruction, physical, anything, right? It's I'm going to tell and show. I'm going to tell you what I'm doing, and I'm going to show you what I'm doing. You're going to watch, listen, and try, right? And we will go back and forth. So if I show an arm bar, I'm going to tell you what I'm doing. I'm going to show you what I'm doing. Now you're going to watch me. You're going to listen to me. And now you're going to try. And we're going to go back and forth on this. That is standard, pretty much training, how we teach things across the world. Ecological, if I'm saying it right. If I'm not, I honestly don't fucking care, because I think it's stupid. Ecological training is,
somebody's out there, that's not it.
There totally is. Yeah, there is. Get on mount. Your job is you're on bottom. I'm on mount. Your job is to get out.
Okay.
Go. Cool. Go. We're going to do this 30 times, and you're going to figure it out.
Okay.
Right? Trial and error, 30 plus or more reps. And your job is to figure out how to get out of here. You have to get out of mount and either get into some kind of guard or get up or whatever, right? That's your job. I'm not going to tell you how to do it.
Okay.
You just have to figure it out. That is ecological training, right? The idea there is nobody told a 1-year-old how to walk.
Yeah.
They figured it out, right? Totally agree. Nobody, like, that's a slightly different situation, because it's really hard to communicate with babies, right? They haven't progressed all that, and they are still learning Like, they're not just learning how to walk. They're learning, like, what the fuck is this thing, right? Like, they're like, oh, my God, a hand. Oh, my God, this is weird. So they're learning all of this stuff. And they're trial and error figuring out how to walk. If you had an adult who had never walked before and you could have a full-on conversation and explain things, do you think the baby that you can't communicate with learns to walk faster, or the person who you can communicate with and have a whole conversation, who's going to learn how to walk faster?
The baby.
This conversation is over.
No, I want to push I've been thinking a lot about teaching jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
And yes, I think there is definitely the need to, like you were describing, where here's the technique, this is how we do the technique. And the muscle memory, all those kind of things I think are really, really important as a foundational kind of building blocks for jiu-jitsu when it comes to positioning and submissions and all those kind of different things.
Yep.
And then I think there's like a next spot where rather than teaching the armbar from the 14 different positions, the 28 different positions, all the different positions that it can be done from, it's allowing the person to learn how to move the body and that joint and that thing themselves. So it's like, here's an opportunity where we can get into this position, and from this position, you can do a bunch of different arm bars. But rather than me show you all of those different arm bars, let's play around and find them yourselves.
Totally.
Get into that position and learn how to control that person and control that appendage, and then find it. Find where you need to manipulate and move that arm, so then you know how to, there it is. And the person's going to, that's the beauty of it, is like, you're going to know when you get it because, there's the arm bar, I'm going to tap. And I think that's really, really important, rather than just thinking about it from the perspective of like, okay, here's this move, but from this position, and 100% now I can do this thing, and so on and so forth. It's like, there's so many different ways to do all of these different submissions from all of these different positions. And all you really need to know in the beginning is some of those real basic submissions.
Totally.
And then you just build upon it based on, okay, I know how, when I close off that part of the neck and shut off that part of the artery, now I figure out how to do that in all the different ways that we can 100%. Do that in.
Yeah, that's not ecological training.
Right.
Because you still you gave them a foundation to learn from. So to me, from the people I've talked with and what I've listened to about ecological, and I'm probably still saying this all fucked up, right?
I love it. Let's hashtag
economical.
It might be economical.
It's not economical. It's
voodoo economics.
Yeah. Ecologically, e-commerce. You would say, I'm never going to explain to you what the armbar is. I'm never going to even give you the fundamental building blocks. I 100% agree that the theory and the principles of why the armbar is a successful submission, I have 2 out of the 3 points of an arm, shoulder, elbow, wrist. If I can immobilize 2, I can create pain with the 3rd. I need to stop 2, move 1. Doesn't matter which one it is, right? That is the basic fundamentals of an armbar. Wherever that comes from, cool. But you have to have those basics to understand, and then see how that can play out in the rest of the world of jiu-jitsu. So I think the idea is like, why do we teach hey, from mount, we throw this is the important stuff we want to immobilize, right? I think that you can get better at teaching that basic.
Yeah.
But then you have to go into, here's how you can find these things in other areas. And I think that if we can give somebody the basic foundations of things, and then that trial and error is using those basics and foundations, right? It's hard because it's really, how would you test this?
The ecological?
How would you test the 2 different times?
Well, there's I can see some benefit to like, hey, we're in mount, get out of mount.
That's like positional sparring and stuff.
Yeah. Like because yes, there's techniques that we can implement, all the different things that we can do in order to quote unquote get out of mount or to transition from mount. But I could see the benefit of like in the beginning, because a lot of times, like when people very first come to jiu-jitsu and they know nothing about jiu-jitsu. And they're like, what am I supposed to do? And I'm like, you're supposed to survive. You're supposed
not
to
die.
Right. That's all that you're supposed to do.
Focus on that.
And all the things that they naturally do to survive that are counter to what you're supposed to do in jiu-jitsu, the only way for them to learn that is by making all of those mistakes.
Yep.
Like I was explaining it to the new girl last night, where it was like, you're going to do, it was the very simple stuff that we were showing last night, where it was just escape, like wrist control.
Yeah,
and
I saw
escaping wrist
the arm
control
drag and stuff,
right?
yeah.
And as soon as we started rolling, she started doing all the normal things that people do in order to counter these things, which are really not good things to do in jiu-jitsu. But I can't teach her that with words.
Yep.
I can't even show her that with instructions. She has to experience that over and over and over and over again until she figures out, oh, I got to stop fucking doing that.
Yeah.
It's the same thing when people go to their belly, right?
Yeah.
Go ahead and turn to your stomach as much as you want and push off the ground to get up. Keep doing it as many times as you'd like. I'm happy if you want to do that 100 fucking times.
Yep. I'm going to take advantage every fucking one.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's the only way people are going to learn it, because you have to rewire the brain in order to get to that spot. So I can see some benefit, and whether that's where like the biological jiu-jitsu is coming from.
Biological jiu-jitsu.
Right? The astronomical jiu-jitsu is coming from.
I like astronomical jiu-jitsu,
Right?
yeah.
If that's the basis for it, I could see some real benefit to it. I could see some real benefit to like, hey, at least from the perspective of like positioning and getting out of positions. But then I think there's that benefit, like, you know, the technical side of submissions and arm bars and triangles and all these other kind of things that we do. I think you need, so you probably need both. It's always going to be both in my mind.
And this is where the people that and it's so funny because this literally friend of mine, JP, who's got he started a podcast. He's a old CrossFit gym owner, helping jiu-jitsu schools now. Cool guy. He had posted, he's like, I'm not sure what ecological jiu-jitsu is or astronomical jiu-jitsu is. And at this point, I'm too afraid to ask, right? And he had commented that, like, yeah, he positional. I'm a huge fan of positional sparring, positional drilling.
Yeah, yeah.
If the new girl that came in, you explained the move, right? And then you said, cool, you put him in the position, okay, and then, that didn't work. It was class 1. Right?
Yeah.
That's what it is, right? But if you were gonna say, hey, we're just gonna go. The learning curve is shorter. If I can give you some examples, I can show you something, you can feel it and do it, and then we can go back and let me show you again.
Yeah, yeah.
That's gonna be a lot faster. And really, if I looked at a new girl, hey, new girl, you got 2 choices. We can just fuck around for the next 2 years, and you'll probably, as you're at your pace, will figure some of this stuff out naturally, ecologically, astronomically, and you'll get to this point probably. Or I can show you the basics along the way, and you'll probably progress faster. Do you want to be, let's just use belts. I know that you're not a fan, right? But
Fuck those
belts, right? Do you want to get to a point where you're no belts. Do you want to spend the next 3 years being a beginner, or do you want to get to intermediate in a year and a half? Almost everyone's going to pick, I want to be intermediate in a year and a half versus still a beginner in 3 years.
Yeah.
What can I do to progress myself faster through this? Nobody walks into jiu-jitsu is like, you know what I really want to do? Take my time learning how to do these submissions, right? You know what? Let's just go ahead and slow roll this for a while. I don't actually need to know any submissions for my first year. You know, I think that'll be fine.
Yeah.
That sounds terrible.
I don't know. I think there's some benefit to, like, I was thinking about it last night because it was like, submissions are obviously an important part of jiu-jitsu, but I mean, how many times are we like position before submission, right? Submission is like the very, 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 very last thing.
Totally.
And so I think I'm trying to think about it from this new perspective. So like, going back and starting to teach fundamentals and all this kind of stuff. So I'm starting to think about like, what really are the fundamental things that I want to start giving to people and sharing with people and teaching, because I don't necessarily think it's beneficial to start off with like kimuras and arm bars and triangles, where it's like, there's some real just fundamental basic, how do we maintain positions and how do we hold positions and how do we improve positions before we even introduce submissions.
Yep.
Because again, it's like the goal isn't, I mean, at this point with my jiu-jitsu, right, the goal isn't submissions.
No.
The goal is just how long can I maintain a position? If I'm dominant in a position for the entire roll, I'm fucking happy with that.
Yeah.
The submission is the very, 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 very last thing to come.
100%.
And so I'm starting to think about it from that perspective where it's like, okay, let's see, tonight I'm going to be teaching, you know, the Kimura for the 15th time or whatever. Like all of those things are really beneficial, but I think there's some other really key things that need to be laid as far as the groundwork goes, especially with somebody that's brand new. Somebody that's really, really fresh.
Yeah.
And I think that that's one of the things that jiu-jitsu has gotten wrong over the years, where it's teaching submissions, you know, kind of at the same time as you're teaching all of these other kind of like positional things. And I'm like, let's just focus on position.
Yeah.
Let's just focus on being able to like survive and roll and breathe and focus and like learning how to continually maintain your awareness. Right? Because that's the very first thing that goes as soon as new people start rolling is that they immediately go into fight or flight and they lose all track of what the fuck's going on. So it doesn't matter the submission that you just taught them because they fucking forgot it, right? And the nice thing about positional things and learning how to control your position and how to improve your position, those are all real big gross motor skills.
Yep.
And you know this, right? Gross motor skills are always going to be better than fine motor skills.
Yep.
So it's like the fine motor skill is the technique and the submission, right? Yeah. But gross motor skill is going to be
always
the thing that's going to win out.
King. You need gross motor skills to get to fine motor skills. Yeah. I think, so I agree. I tell people when we talk about this, it's a pyramid. Transitions are our number one. We need to get to a position. So whatever that is, if we're both standing, how do I get to a position of dominance? And then transition is my base. That takes us to position. And we are always trying to either de-escalate their advantage position or escalate my advantage. If I have, like I talk about, like, hey, if I have someone in my guard, I need to get to, for me, I go from guard to a half guard to a sweep to a mount to a back, you know, like that's or if I'm in someone's guard, I pass guard, I go to side, I go to mount, I go to back, right? This is my progression. So I'm always escalating or de-escalating theirs. Then submission. And if I start thinking about submission while we're standing here, we're playing different games.
Yeah, you're fucked.
So if you have me in guard, right, and I'm, you know, sitting here and I'm thinking about what submission can I use right now? Like, is there a submission? Yeah. Like, is that what we're going to go over right now? Like, no, right? We have to focus on positions and how do I transition between those, then getting to the submission. So I agree. Gross motor skill, fine motor skill.
Yeah.
The only thing I will say is putting someone in a Kimura is a great way to control their position.
It is.
Right? So it's that final, like, if you get on mount, hey, I want to learn to just, and I tell this to my kids, get on top, stay on top. Right? Cool. If you can do that, awesome. And then if you feel like they're starting to go somewhere and you can throw that Kimura on or something like that, that's instantly going to stop their position moving because they're like, well, now I have to deal with this submission. Yeah. So I don't know. I think positional sparring is phenomenal. I think that it's always you and I think both still to this day, like you'll be doing something, all of a sudden you're like, oh shit, did you see, like something clicks.
Yeah.
It clicks because that's the place that you're at, right? And I agree for where you are in your jiu-jitsu path and where I am in my jiu-jitsu path. It makes more positional stuff. Like I don't get a ton right now from watching someone do something. Like I need to get in and feel it. I need to play with it, right? But somebody who's brand new, like why do we teach the Americana and the Kimura? They're easy. They're super basic. And nobody does karate for 3 years before they get to break their first board.
Yeah.
It's all about like, I want to get to that thing. Like I want to break a board right as soon as I can, because that's that little win. If I learn a submission, I'm like, okay, right? Like I taught Jamie how to do a rear naked choke, and she's like, I know how to do a rear naked, like, yeah, you do, right? Does she know how to get there? And like, no, right? But she was excited to learn that. And that might be the thing that learning that submission might be the thing that keeps you intrigued.
Yeah.
And if I think about that a lot, what can I do to make sure you keep coming back?
Yeah.
Right? Because I know that you will learn way more in jiu-jitsu if you do this for 10 years than if you come for a day.
Yeah.
What can I do to get you to show up tomorrow?
Yeah, it's always both. That's what I always come back to in life. And it's, anytime I'm thinking about things from like that black or white perspective, or it's got to be this or that.
Yeah.
Right. We have these fun conversations about belts and no belts. And it's like, it can be both. It can just be both.
Totally.
There's always both.
Yep.
There's always benefit to multiple things being applicable at any given time. But I'm really excited about the opportunity to like expand on like thinking about how to teach fundamental aspects of jiu-jitsu. And I'm hoping that some of the guys that, that are 2, 3, 4, 5 years in still show up thinking that, because that's the thing is it's like, I'm not just going to be teaching these submissions over and over and over again, but it's like, there's some real basic fundamental stuff that a lot of people don't have. And it's trying to, you're behind the curve trying to pick it up when do you know what I mean? It's past the point where you should have learned it way back in the day. And now it's like, you got to go back and learn these things. And as soon as you start putting some of those pieces together and you're learning, like, this, I mean, as soon as you really start to understand weight distribution and how to control your weight, I mean, it changes everything.
Yeah.
It's like you can take somebody who, we've got some guys there that are incredibly good at controlling their weight.
Yes.
And their positioning that are just monsters. And I've got 125 pounds on them.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like,
and you're like, I can't do anything.
Yeah.
Yeah. Their weight control is so good. It doesn't matter that I'm stronger than them.
Exactly.
It's, hey, pick this piece of steel that weighs 130 pounds off the ground. The problem is it's like this big and you can't get underneath it, so you're like, I'm strong enough, but I can't get to the spot to get my leverage. Yeah. It's, I agree. I mean, the basics of fundamentals, I think, are super important for all levels, right? And I think it's important to challenge oneself. I think a lot of people get like, oh, this is my position. I am the same. Like, I play a lot of half.
Yeah.
I love being on my back. I love starting on my back, right? Because I like to go through the whole process. And I need to challenge myself more to start in more in offensive positions. And, I was talking about this the other day. I was like, knee cuts. And they're like, yeah. And they're like, well, how do you knee cut? I was like, I honestly don't. And they're like, what do you mean you don't? I was like,
yeah,
it's just not a thing that I do. When was the last time that somebody was on their butt or knees or something like that, or on their back, and I was on my feet? It's not a position that I ever play in, so I don't ever think about it.
Yeah. I'm always trying to be cognitive of like, not just what their weak side is and what their weak stuff is, but because that's where that's a lot of what I'm doing right now is I'm trying to put guys on their opposite sides. I'm trying to push them towards the direction that they don't want to go in.
Yeah.
And then at the same time, when I get bored with that, I'll go in my opposite direction.
Yeah.
So I'll push myself into the space that I don't want to go towards and just get real curious about what happens there and stuff like that.
That's like when you let somebody like, hey, let's see where this goes, right? Also, I went too far. Yeah, you also, next thing you know, you're getting choked out or you're in a crucifix. So you're just like, oh, so that's what's at the end of this road.
I wanted to talk too, because it's the beginning. I mean, we're recording this right at the cusp of February, January, and we're doing carnivore diet this month, right? So by the time this comes out, it'll be
we'll
February.
be starting.
We'll be in it. And I want to touch base with you because it has been really interesting when it came up on the podcast and we started talking about it, and I was like, yeah, let's do it. I'm excited. And then I'm like, fuck, I don't know. But I'm excited to do it. I'm going to do it.
I'm with you on the like, fuck.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, or do we still want to do it? Are we doing it?
No, I'm doing it. Yeah.
Okay. Let's get the ground rules squared away. Because, I mean, it's easy enough, right? It's just meat for the entire month and nothing else as far as food, right?
So I will... here's what I'm going to do, right? Because I've already like put forth my thought on this. So meat, right? Eggs, turkey, ham, beef, right? Chicken. I am going to, I'm also going to do cheese, right? As just another source of like fats and proteins. That's a choice I'm making. I will also probably throw in some non-starchy vegetables. So, onions, peppers, it's pretty much all I got. Onions and peppers.
Mushrooms?
I'm not a mushroom fan.
Okay.
So super low, like, I'm not going to throw potatoes in there, right?
Yeah.
That's a super high carb, starchy. Like that's not what I'm looking for. I'm not looking for sweet potatoes. I'm not going to do any fruits, which sucks because I love apples. But I'm really just going to do like my goal is probably like I'm going to eat like 6 eggs in the morning, and yeah, I'm going to probably eat a bunch of chicken and then some steak, right? Like I probably plan to go like eggs, chicken, steak.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
Like that's...
So we're not just 100% meat the whole entire month.
I mean, that's like eggs. I consider eggs fall in that like meat.
Okay. That's good to know. Like I don't consider eggs meat.
Okay.
But I'm glad that you do.
Yeah.
Because I'm very excited to be able to eat eggs. I like eggs.
Yeah.
Like, so it's easy enough.
Yeah.
That all sounds great.
Yep. So that's what my plan is.
Okay.
I'm not going to do no carbs. Right,
Yeah,
no
yeah.
breads, no sugars, no snacks. I will still drink black coffee. I'm not doing my insert or my mixes or anything like that with it. I'm not doing any sugars in there or the hot cocoa. No desserts, no fruits. Yeah, so meats, cheeses, eggs, and non-starchy vegetables.
Okay.
Like I might throw... The thing that I always have to think is like, I just need some fiber.
Yeah.
Right. So I'm okay throwing in some celery, right? Some carrots, some stuff like that, just to maintain some good bowel function. Like,
well, supposedly if you just go straight meat, it eventually equals itself out there and, you know, handles its business and cleans you out and everything's great, right?
I believe that all to be true. I can't imagine throwing a little bit extra fiber in there, right? Like there's nothing in celery. Celery is just fiber.
Yeah, yeah.
Right? Like that's only going to help with any of that. I think that, I mean, I don't know. We'll see. I'm also doing it. So you're just doing carnivore for 30 days.
Yeah.
I'm doing carnivore as part of phase 1 for 75 hard. So I have a whole other list of things I'm doing.
Yeah.
Yeah. And which is like, I'm not asking you.
My 75 yoga wrapped up, Pat, last weekend.
There you go.
Killed it.
There you go.
I'm on day 85 or whatever.
That's awesome.
So I just do yoga every single day.
Keep going.
I'm loving it.
Yeah, dude.
It's changed everything.
Yeah, dude. I'm really not excited. I will still got 2 workouts a day coming back, right? Starting Sunday, outdoor workout. So 2 workouts a day, pick a carnivore diet, sticking to that, gallon of water a day, 10 pages in a book, take a photo every day, no alcohol, no cheats or anything like that. Cool. Phase 1 is also a 5-minute cold shower.
5-minute cold shower?
5-minute cold shower.
Okay.
That is the thing that I am looking forward to the least.
Really?
I'll do a cold plunge. Cold shower is worse.
Yeah. It's moving water.
It's moving water.
A bunch
It's
of stuff,
just,
yeah.
I've got a way that I do it. I like turn some music on. I set a timer. I get in the cold shower and I'm like, this fucking sucks. And I just sit there and I listen to the music and then like the timer goes off and I'm like, ugh, and I turn the heat on.
Yeah.
Yeah, I also have, it's a 10 minutes of meditation, and then you have to pick 3 other like critical task items that you're going to do. So, hey, I'm going to spend 15 minutes journaling. I'm going to take 30 minutes out of every day, and I'm going to just clean my garage, right? Just whatever, right? Just pick something that you're going to do every day that's beneficial to your life.
Yeah.
So that's like stuff like that. You know, some people would be like, I'm going to read my Bible for, you know, I'm going to read 10 pages of my Bible every day, or I'm going to journal or whatever. But you have to pick 3 other things that you're going to do every day. So, yeah.
This all sounds great.
It doesn't.
It really sounds like stuff that I'm already doing. Like, that's the thing that I'm really excited about is because I was thinking about it, and it's like I have started eating so much cleaner in the last, 30, 45 days. And I'm feeling the immense benefits of it. Everything's like, my body feels like it's finally getting to that spot where everything's operating really well. I'm feeling really good. All these kind of things are really starting to happen. And so I'm down for the carnivore. I'm down for, like, I'm already meditating every day. So I'm going to be doing that. I'll do cold showers.
Okay.
I'll just do cold showers. I don't like, that's the thing that I've learned with the 75 yoga was I'm not interested in structuring things around like times and this and that. Fuck all that. I ain't got time for any of that stuff. Cause that stuff that's how I fell. Is when I try to put it in all these boxes that I have to do and check off this list and say, I can't do that. So I'll just take cold showers the entire month of February. Just the whole shower will be cold. I won't even worry about, That doesn't mean that I can't take a warm shower at some point.
Yeah.
But all my showers will just be cold showers. I can do that.
Makes me uncomfortable thinking about it.
I love the cold.
I love the cold too. I hate cold showers.
It's so beneficial.
I agree, 100%.
It's in your head. Don't be afraid.
I'm not afraid.
Right. You're afraid.
I'm not
You're
afraid
of the cold.
I'm not afraid of the cold. I understand. I recognize. I just don't like it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're rough.
It's fucking terrible.
They're rough.
It's one thing, like, if you, like, taking a cold shower on a hot day, like, if you're outside, you're at the beach and the water's cold, like, that's refreshing.
Yeah.
Right? Or you take the cold shower before you get in the water, and that warms the water's warmer or feels warmer, right? Being in a perfectly homeostasis, like whatever, and like, I'm just going to get in some cold running water right now. Sucks.
It does suck.
Yeah.
Then let's see. I'm not reading. I'm not going to read. A lot of this stuff I'm already doing. So I'm excited. This will be fun. It'll be easy. I'm glad that we can eat eggs. Some of those fibrous veggies, because one of my favorite things to do is I'll get cubed steak, and then chop up some onions and mushrooms, and grill everything up, and then just turn it into this great little mash.
So I think like that would be totally fine. Like I think you can eat mushrooms, right? Like the like I would probably continue. Like if I wanted some broccoli, asparagus, some lettuce, or something like that. Kale, probably not. But
I'm a big fan of kale.
I'm not.
It's fibrous.
I believe that. It's the food my food eats. I think
that's why you got to send it down with it.
Yeah.
Give it something to eat on.
Yeah. I think so the last time I did this, I think I went 16 days.
Okay.
So I didn't finish the whole 30. So I'm really pushing, like I really want to hit 30 days on this. And it'll be hard.
What's your plan for the meditation?
So I have really enjoyed like a YouTube just guided. I just searched for like 10-minute guided meditation, and I just put that on my lap, close my eyes, and just sit there and listen to that for 10 minutes, and that's what I do. That's my meditation.
Okay.
Right. I've really enjoyed that in my past when I did it. Really liked that, so I'm just gonna stick with that.
I did this thing the other night because I've been in conjunction with yoga, all of my spiritual practices are coming back in like all of this beautiful way. And so I'll be on the mat. And last night it was like the culmination of a couple of different things for me, but I'll throw my earbuds in and I'll turn on ocean waves. And then I put on a blindfold. I turn off all the lights in the room anyway, so it's already dark.
Yeah.
But I put on the blindfold just so that I eliminate like the little bit of light that's coming from the kitchen or whatever underneath the door.
Mm-hmm.
And then I just fucking sit there at the fucking ocean.
Do you just not fall asleep?
No. Well, I'm sitting up, even when I lay down, because even if I'm laying down, I do it.
I feel like I'd fall asleep.
I just sit there, and then eventually at some point I open up my eyes in the blindfold and then start seeing some stuff.
Okay.
It's amazing.
All right.
Yeah, it's wonderful. That's why I'm like excited for you to do some meditation, because I think you're going to open up some things that are in there. Like there's more to all of this than just the reality of what we're experiencing.
I feel like in my meditation, it just really helps calm me down.
Yeah.
And I think I don't know if I've had the experience yet of like just.
Do you ever see colors or anything like that?
Not really.
You know, when you like close your eyes and like you can squinch and push your eyes, and then you'll kind of see like light and flashes of colors and things like that.
Uh-huh.
Have you ever pushed and kind of like done the thing with your eyes and then you see like a grid at all? Have you ever experienced that?
Is that the Matrix?
Hey, I'm not saying it's not.
I mean, maybe. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe.
But do you remember at any given point, like seeing anything when, you know, you're like, well, what'll happen to me? This is my process. So I'll have my eyes closed and mind starts to do all the things that the mind does, right? And I just let it go. Now I don't even worry about trying to chase those thoughts down or control those thoughts, or like the whole process of like, stop thinking about shit. You're supposed to be meditating and I just let all of that shit go. So I'm not worried about what my mind's doing, and I just stay in this space, and then I just slow my breath and I focus on my breath, right?
Mm-hmm.
Just think about my breath. And the ocean helps a lot because I think of breath as the ocean. It's inhale,
the ebb and
exhale,
flow. Yeah.
Right. So I'm just in breath. And then the first thing that often happens is I'll start to see stars. So it's like, I mean, it looks like a blank screen. It's black.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'll start to see just pinpoints of light. So it very much just looks like the night sky.
Okay.
So the night sky will start to kind of appear before me, and stars will start to appear. And sometimes you'll get like waves of other types of like light that will come in.
Mm-hmm.
Most of the time it's just, I mean, when I say it's light, I mean, it's white, it's light, it's just a shade or a tone or a color. Sometimes there's very specific colors like greens and blues and reds and things like that.
Okay.
And then, you know, that's just the beginning. I mean, it goes from there to all sorts of wonderful things. But
I just imagine Fantasia.
Yeah.
Yeah. That sounds super cool.
Yeah. And you've never had any experiences like that at all? What about like in dreams or anything from that space at all?
Not that I can like pinpoint.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it hasn't happened. It just wasn't enough to like remember. My eyeballs hurt right now because I pushed too hard on them, and I'm like, "Fuck, I really fucked it." I'm like sitting there going, "Like, man, my eyes really hurt. Why do my eyes hurt?" It's like because you were just fucking shoving your fist in your eye sockets, you idiot, trying to find the grid, and I'm over here.
Have we ever talked about dreams? Do you dream a lot?
I don't. I just don't really dream a ton.
Yeah.
I'm sure I know that like everybody dreams, right? I just don't remember a lot of my dreams. Occasionally I'll wake up and I feel like it's there for a fleeting second.
Okay.
And then it's gone. I try and this could, and I don't know. I think part of my experience from my life has been now I don't trust dreams. Like dreams can also be negative for me.
Okay.
And for that reason, like, let's not go there.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean it doesn't happen. I still have, you know.
When you say dreams can be negative for you, do you just mean like you'll dream about stuff that's difficult to feel, process, and or be in?
Like I will have a dream that I'm on a battlefield and going through that.
Yeah, yeah.
Right. And it may not be something that I'm reliving. It could just be the scenario.
Yeah.
Right.
I used to dream, and I still do periodically. I used to dream all the time about being a cop.
Yeah.
And it was so fucking frustrating because every single time what would happen is it would always get to the point where I'm like pulling my gun out and I either can't pull the trigger. So like, it's like, can't, like the trigger won't work.
Oh no.
Or what will happen is I'll be able to pull the trigger, but then I see the bullet and I watch the bullet and it will hit the bad guy and it won't stop him.
Ugh.
And I'm just like, this is the worst fucking experience.
Yeah,
of my
right.
Fucking life.
You're like,
what's going on here?
Just fucking gut.
Yeah. But it's been weird to see the dreams evolve with being a cop. Cause like nowadays when I dream about them and it comes up, I mean, back in the day, it was very much like, and even after that time period for years, it was still like in the thick of it. And it would be like all these kind of things. And now when I dream about being a cop, it's literally like I'm the current version of me
as a cop,
and I have to go back.
Yeah.
And they like pull me back in and I'm still like in my civilian clothes and they're like, here's your gun, Craig, go get in the old car over there. And I'm like in the car and I'm driving around and I'm like, what is going on? This is so weird. I'm not a cop anymore. This is crazy, but it's weird. It's so funny nowadays.
I've had that dream where like something goes wrong and the Marine Corps is like,
right? Hey, we need you back.
We need you back. And I'm like, go grab my sea bag that's in the basement.
Marty, we've got to go back.
I mean, like, I think, like, I've definitely had those dreams like, oh, yeah, I was doing this and it was current me or it wasn't or whatever. It's super fun, right? At the same time, you're like waking me like, what the fuck was that all about? But, yeah, I don't dream too much. I don't really daydream a lot either. Like I problem solve a lot while I'm thinking about things, but it's not really like I don't consider it a daydream.
Yeah. We got to get your imagination lit up. We've got to get you connected to your imagination.
I mean, I try to think about my imagination as more as my creative side.
Yeah.
Right?
That's exactly what I'm talking about.
Yeah. But I'm a fairly creative person.
I think you're incredibly creative. I think you have a beautiful imagination.
Oh.
Yeah. That day that you were describing the gym to me, like the vision, how you see it.
Yeah.
Like that was clear as day to me that you have a beautiful imagination that can create things and see things.
Yeah.
And I like the way that you create and bring things forth into reality. Like you definitely have the ability to like make things with your hands, right? Steel, wood, whatever it is. And that's a creative experience. That's you seeing something in your mind's eye and making it in reality, bringing it forth and creating it in this reality and being like, here, this is that thing that I saw in my head and I put the pieces together and there it is. Yeah. That's fucking awesome.
It's so funny because like the wood and the metal and like those things, way better at that stuff. I'm working on this referral gift card, like business card thing. And I like got it and I looked at it, I was like, this sucks. Because I know what somebody who really does that, how good that is. Yeah. Right? So I look at it, I'm like, God, you suck. Like I can build something, I can like the desk or whatever, like that's not a big deal, right? Like I don't think twice about that stuff. But the like even putting together the like social media posts and stuff like that, I'm like, all right, like I know how to do this. I'm like, all right, but some of the people who do those things, I'm like, God, they're so much better at this than I am.
Yeah. But it's all the same stuff. Like I think of it as the same thing. I think it's all just creative energy. Yeah. And it's just however we choose to direct it and use it. And yours just happens to be like a strong suit with,
physical. Yeah.
With turning stuff into reality that way.
Yeah. Yeah. I think imagination's super cool. I think it's also like that I want to envision like the future state and like, hey, like here's what my 5 years from now vision looks like. And then I work backwards and like, here are all the things that need to happen between now and then. Like, all the little, I was literally thinking about this last night as I was showering. I was like, what I really want to do, because here's the hard part about having the gym now is like, or the school is I know from my past experience with my last business, I did all these things and I'm like, sweet, I want to do all those things. But I look at it now as those are all the same. Business cards, flyers, referral cards, wall art inside the facility, what the website looks like, signs, all this stuff. I look back at that right now and like that's all one thing, but that was 4 years of process. And I'm like, yeah, but I want all that right now. So I was thinking I was like, I might just do like, have the conversation with Jamie and just be like, hey, I want to hire a graphics person for like 20 hours and be like, I need to here's my list. And like, I would even go as far as, and it sounds so silly. It's like, I wanted to put together, like, here's our branding guidelines. Yeah. Like this is the font that we use in everything that we do. Yeah. Here's our hex codes for the colors that we use in everything that we do. And I know that if it sounds super over the top, I think for some people, but I know that if I start with that, everything else gets easier.
Oh, totally.
Right? If I say yes, if I can look at anybody and be like, hey, Craig, thanks for helping me with some of the social media or whatever, or this flyer or this post or whatever. Here's our branding guidelines. So you know exactly, here are the fonts that we use, here are the colors that we use, and all that stuff. Here are the approved logos. Boom. Here's how we place those.
Yeah, it's so much easier.
It's so much easier. So as much as I'm like, yeah, we should totally do it. And then I'm also like, no, like we're not doing branding guidelines. We don't even have a business that's supporting itself yet, right? Like,
it's so hard sometimes. I think about all of that stuff. It's the same thing with this podcast where it's like there's so many things that I want to do with this podcast and so many things that, you know, it's like we need to do this and this. And it's like, well, eventually we'll get to those spots and all these things build upon each other. And
you've got, like, you want it to naturally happen, and you know that there's a certain speed that you can maintain and drive and push and all that, but you see where you want to be. Yeah. And you're like, man, I wish I could just fast forward, right?
Yeah, Steph and I joke about it because, I mean, essentially we have a podcast studio in our house, right?
Yes.
And when we built it, initially it was just like the realization of like, oh, we're building this set for the Steph and Craig show. And now I see it as a studio space. And I don't know if you ever listened to like Tom Segura and Christina P, right? They have Your Mom's House studios. Yeah. So they have a ton of podcasts under that brand and everything like that. Yep. And they have like a dedicated fucking place. Yep. And it's a full-on studio with multiple sets and all sorts of different stuff. And I'm like, let's do that.
Yeah, that's super
like,
cool.
I very much want to go to our studio space where we have, rather than me having to like switch this set out for the different shows, we just have the dedicated set already done and set up.
Let's future cast this a little bit. Yeah. Because I want to get I would love in the next 2 years for Athens Jiu-Jitsu and Fitness to have a building, to like, I want to buy a lot, put a building up. Yeah. Have a space for Athens Jiu-Jitsu and Fitness so we can have different jiu-jitsu spaces, or we'll call it just mat spaces, and then a fitness space. But I also want to have the building be big enough that we can have other areas. It would be really cool if there was a podcast or a studio as part of that. That's a bunch of different rooms that could be rented out and be like, here you go. Here's all the power and all the different places, and here you can hang and set up all the stuff. Yeah. And then, you know, that could be a space that is sublet and all that. We could put something together. Could literally get off the mats and go sit down and be like, yo, let's record real fast. Yeah. Right?
Yeah, I would love to have, you know, and that model, like that business model exists with podcast studios, right? Where you buy the space and then you set up a couple of different rooms and spaces and everything like that. All of that would be great. I mean, I see that and I like that. I want my space, like I want the complete like studio that is, because I mean, we've got 2 shows right now. Yep. And there's no reason why we can't have 5 shows, right? There's no reason why we can't have a full production team. There's no reason why we can't just be the on-screen personalities that show up to record these fucking things, and then everybody else is doing everything else, right? And we just go from set to set depending upon what show we're doing that day. That's what I want. That's what I want to work towards. It's just
the
one
talent
aspect. Life. Yeah. Yeah, where we're just showing up on camera. I love all the back end stuff. I love creating all the content and doing all of it. And that's like a big, huge creative expression. And I'm learning so many different things. And I love all of that stuff. And I'm going to be really excited when I get to go do this. Yeah. Here you go. Yeah. Here's the content. Make the fucking stuff. Yeah, yeah. And we don't have to do all of that stuff anymore. Because that's the stuff that's just labor intensive. Man. Yeah.
I mean, it's like the journey. Like, I know a lot of people, you know, all this stuff. It's not the destination, it's the journey. Like, yeah, the journey's great. Yeah. The destination's pretty fucking awesome too. Yeah. Right? It's like, yeah, like when I think like 5 years from now, when we're in Futurecast in that space, like, and I walk in one day and there's 50 people on 2 or 3 different mats. There's a fitness class going on. There's some personal training happening. There's a kids class. There's a kickboxing class, right? Everybody's going to get together at the brewery that's next door that we sublet into, right?
Yeah.
There's all this stuff going on. That will be the moment that I'm like, fuck yeah, like this is fucking awesome.
Yeah.
Everything between now and then will also be fucking cool, right?
Yeah.
But when you get to stand there and you're like, yeah, like.
I told Steph that the other day where it was like, I don't want to miss this part because this is the part that like the building phase of all of these things. It's so, I mean, it's hard and it's difficult, but at the same time, it's like I'm so present and connected to my life right now where I'm recognizing that like this is me building my dreams. Like I'm in the process of creating the life that I want to live.
Yeah.
And I don't want to miss it.
Yeah.
Like I really fucking enjoy it. Like I really like the process of building this experience. And I used to just rush through it. I used to try to get, you know, we got to hurry up and get through all of this fucking shit that we have to do in order to get to that end spot. And then that end spot never comes. And it's like, no, I don't want to miss this part. I don't want to miss the process of building the future because this is enjoyable. Like I like this part. Do you know what I mean? It's really, really fun. And it'll be great when we just get to show up.
Yeah.
And, you know, all of this stuff is already finished and done. And I'm not sitting here trying to figure out like, where do I need to put this fucking light in order to make this fucking look good? It's just.
Yeah. Why isn't that working?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It'll be nice one day.
Yeah. I think the, I mean, it's, as much though I enjoy all the process of like doing all the work. It was funny. I actually got to talk to, so in Denver, there's a group of schools called Easton Jiu-Jitsu. Great schools. I have trained at them. One of them I drop into anytime I'm in Denver, which is, you know, fairly regularly. I train there. They've got great classes, great instructors, great community. But they do like, hey, there's the no-gi, like the gi class. They've got multiple floors. There's the kickboxing and all the stuff going on. Well, they've started working on like, hey, we're going to help other people with this. And it was funny. Michael had sent it to me. And I was like, oh, I know these people, right? Drop into those gyms. So I actually had a conversation with a guy last night. And he's like, yeah, you know, we've got our, I think it's called like their launch or something like that program. And he's like, yeah, it's, you know, you sign up $500 and we're going to help you get to 100 members. I was like, oh, awesome. And then we talked about what that was and all this stuff. I was like, okay, cool. Yeah. He's like, so you want to do it? I was like, no, I don't. And he's like, oh, and I was like, no, I think what you guys are doing is great. I was like, I'm just in that same process. I was like, so why would I pay you? Like, no offense. I was like, I think what you're doing is great, but I'm in that same process right now. Everything, and I say this, I'm not trying to sound like cocky about this for those guys. I think, you know, what they're doing is awesome. I already know, I feel like I know a really good amount of what it is that they're sharing. I was like, sweet. No, I'm going to keep doing this. And I was like, I mean, I could just sign up for $500. And if there's one thing in there that helps me in any other way, it could have been worth the $500.
Yeah.
You know, and like, or like, hey, if I look at it, say, hey, we're trying to get to 100 members, which isn't my end goal, but like, okay, the race to 100 members. If that takes us 8 months, great. If I spent $500 and I could do it in 4 months, is that better? Right. Because like, how fast can I learn this? Right. Is it the ecological learning? Right. Or is it the like, you know, show me, tell me, you know, do and try.
I think you'll always get those tips. Like that's what I've learned. And I was so resistant to help for a really, really long time from just a perspective of like shame.
Yeah.
Where it was like when we started Steph and Craig and built out all of this stuff, it was a whole learning curve for me. And I knew that there was stuff that I was going to learn and I was going to educate myself and I was going to go down the rabbit holes on YouTube. I was going to do all of that stuff that I did back in the day when it was just audio, having to learn all of it. But I also knew that there were things that would take me 6 months to figure out on my own that I could pay somebody to show me. And that's what I ended up doing, where there was this guy who's got exactly what you were describing, like a podcast studio with different sets and stuff in Chicago. And I was loving all of his content on YouTube and was learning a lot of stuff from him on his YouTube channels. And so I just like hit him up, and he's like, yeah, you know, and I think it was like $100 or something. It was something really reasonable. And we sat on the fucking call for like 90 minutes.
Yeah.
And I was just like, here's all of my questions.
Yeah.
And he was like, this, you need that cable, you need this thing, this is how you do this is how you, and I'm like,
it's that
such
speed.
a lifesaver.
Yeah, it speeds up the process, right? And so that was literally my thought as I was thinking about it. You know, I was like, man, you know what? I mean, like the investment
might be worth it.
It might be worth it.
It's a fucking write-off too.
Right. And it could be one of those, it's a fucking write-off. You're like, what does that even mean? It's
just
a
write it off.
Just write it off.
Just write it off.
You know, you write it off.
Write it off? What?
Yeah. What do you write? I love it. I've had that same conversation in the past. But I think that it's one of those like, all right. And I try to look at this in the aspect of like the small to medium business ownership of a fitness place, health and wellness, martial arts, CrossFit, whatever. That is my space. I do believe, like, I don't think I know everything about it, that space, but I tend to know more than most, right? Even those that are in the space. And then I was thinking about it, you know, this morning as I was going through this, I was like, yeah, but if I paid $500 and I either confirmed everything that I knew or tightened up the things that I know, or if I learned some more, like, was that worth it? Like, yeah, absolutely, right?
I'm talking to some guys right now. It was the podcast that I was on. I don't know when that episode comes out, but I was talking to their guy that does all of their video editing, and it was talking about YouTube stuff and algorithms and all the different things when it comes to uploading to YouTube and everything like that. Because I know that there's blind spots there for me, right? I know that there's some things there that I haven't learned, and that's exactly what it was, where it was like confirming stuff that I already knew, which is really great, and then also just a couple of little things that was like, oh shit, that's going to be easy to implement immediately and start, you know, rolling out across all the different things and stuff like that. So
yeah.
I don't think we're supposed to do this alone in any aspect.
No, I agree. And then, I mean, literally had the same thought process that I was like, all right, I was like, well, you never know what is until you're putting yourself out there. I was like, and this is where you just start like wandering, imagination.
Yeah.
Right. I called out, oh, Toodles, right? And I was like, let's go do this on this ride. And I was like, well, who knows, man? Maybe I start doing this with them because they do calls and they have a community. And maybe that helps me help more people. Maybe I get to show up and maybe I'm the guy who's got all the questions. Maybe I'm the guy that shows up and I'm like, oh, hey, I know that's the answers to all these questions, right? Like, oh, hey, let me help you out there. Hey, I know about this here. I know about this stuff.
Yeah.
Right? Like and like what can I provide to that group, right? And then by me providing, does that help me even more, right?
Yeah.
So no, I agree. I don't think we're supposed to do this alone. I think it is a journey with many, you know. And I think if you can bring more people on the path, like great, you know, what can you do to help more and more people?
For sure.
So, but I'm really excited about it.
Me too.
I think we're gonna order. Oh yeah, I mean, we got a lot of jiu-jitsu stuff going on.
Yeah,
gonna place an order for a bunch of gis.
I know we need to get some freaking bravemendare rash guards. We got to figure that out.
Yeah,
I think that would be.
I think
fun.
we can do that.
That'd be easy to do, and we should get them up and start hawking them on social or something like that.
We can talk to Michael. He can get them. He's like the design and stuff like that. Yeah, I
think it'd be great just to take the fucking lion and put it on a rash guard, right?
Yeah,
and then bravemendare on the chest or on the back or something like that.
I just want to have Craig and Ben. It's just my name on other dudes. Branding,
right? We do have sponsors for the podcast.
Yeah,
a couple of new sponsors: Heritage Steel and Woolly. All that info is always in the links down below. And if you like the podcast, it's a great way to help the podcast, because that obviously is helpful. If you go and support those people, then we get a little cut, a little kickback.
Help me, help you,
right?
Help me.
So yeah, dude.
Good for everybody.
Exactly.
Yeah, man.
It's been fun.
It's been great.
I'm excited for February. So let's wrap up. We're eating meat.
We're eating meat, eggs. Cheese,
a couple of fibrous veggies. Cold showers. 10 minutes of meditation every day.
10 minutes of meditation.
And then whatever else Ben's doing on top of all of that.
Double workouts.
Right.
And
reading. I'm just going to be laying on my yoga mat and playing pickleball.
There you go. I mean, if you could make it like, hey, I do yoga and pickleball every day, because pickleball is outside.
Correct.
Right. And you do yoga every day. I mean, you would hit the wickets right there.
Yeah. I'm doing yoga every day regardless. So that's an easy thing.
Yep.
I'm not going to do pickleball every day.
Well, it's probably
Right. Yeah. But I mean, that Monday night pickleball.
Yeah, I mean, your competition.
I'm
excited.
It's not long until Craig's going to be.
I really want to do
on the amateur pro circuit.
Is there like people watching?
You could totally come watch.
Dude, I want to get the Craig face printout. Actually, you just sent me those. I'm going to totally get the one with your hair is just like this. I'm going to print that big, like the big head out on a stick and just go walk around the pickleball. Like, go, Craig. Craig's our man. If he can't do it, no one can.
On the next episode of Brave Mendare.
This would be great.
I love you, dude.
I love you, man.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Brave Mendare. If you haven't yet, take a moment and subscribe to our channel, click that little notification bell, and check out some of these other clips. Last but not least, we'd really appreciate it if you sent this podcast to somebody else. Share it with a friend, share it with a buddy, and don't hesitate to reach out. The conversations that we have on the podcast are meant to inspire you, but also we want to hear what it brings up for you. Whether you share it in the comment, send us an email, or call us up. But thanks for being here, and we'll see you on the next episode.